Welcome to Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, the podcast where we tackle the literal and figurative clutter standing between you and your healthiest and happiest life. I'm Melanie, your host, coach, and guide on this journey to help you design a life that you love. Whether it's clearing out your kitchen cabinets, untangling your digital files, or letting go of the mental blocks that hold you back, we're here to make space for what truly matters. Let's lighten up together, starting now. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, the place where we'd like to talk about all forms of clutter, physical and mental. I have a special guest, Stephanie Poe. I'm just going to dive right into her bio, and then we're going to let her take the reins. Stephanie Poe is the founder of Poe Coaching and Consulting and author of Perfect Progression, known as the merger of generations. She helps leaders and teams build generational gaps in the workplace as a thought leader, thought care-based leadership, integrity, and innovation. With a background in legal studies and deep expertise in organizational leadership, she partners with companies to boost internal communication, revenue strategies, and team morale. A believer in both structure and spirit, Stephanie weaves her passion for astrology, numerology, and wellness into the way she supports clients, bringing head, heart, and a little cosmic insight to the boardroom. When she's not leading workshops, she's meditating, traveling, or sharing a good meal with loved ones. And I'm going to add to it, since I just found out, playing with her new kitten, Frankenstein. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. So you just recreated your job title or, the who you are. So why don't you tell us what that is and why?
Yes, so I recreated my job title, and I am a multi-generational strategic advisor and workplace energy expert. The reason why I switched the title is because one, I prefer to be known as a multi-generational strategic advisor because I work with all generations. Number one, I was raised by a boomer. I had a traditionalist as a mentor. A couple of them, actually. I am a millennial. My mother's a Gen X, and my children are Gen Alphas, and I have some Gen Betas, even though they're very new, that I actually interact with because, of course, they're younger cousins, they're younger people. They're in our lives. And so being planted in a space where I've had the privilege to be in the lives of all of these generations while learning about my own generation and watching my children grow up because they're now grown, it made me realize that I can actually work with all generations. And more importantly, I have the ability to pull out the issues between the different generations and merge them together in the workplace with every job I've ever held prior to being a business owner. And when I realized that I was actually very skilled at doing that by accident, because I didn't really mean to, it was really more so of, hey, this young kid is having an issue with this older person. They don't get along. They don't want to talk together. Let's bring them to the table. Let's really get to the root cause of what the issue is, because I'm a root cause person. When I really put these two people together, they were actually saying the same thing, just using different terminologies to describe what the issue is. And so when I realized that they were actually saying the same thing, but they use their own meanings to those particular terms based on their era, their generation, I realized that there's something magical here. So let's merge them together. And I became known as the merger of generations, because after getting to that root cause, getting that clarity, they realized that they were actually saying the same thing. And the younger generation wanted to learn more from the older generation. And I'm thinking to myself, can we replicate that? Let's do that again. And so I've created a business that specializes in bridging the gaps between generations in workspaces, using a series of workshops, speaking, a book, and going into workplace to determine whether or not they can work with their leader. And that's based on astrology. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's so much more to astrology than just a sun sign. It goes deeper. I am a lifelong learner. And so I decided to bridge my love of that and bridge my love of workplace clarity and continuous improvement together in a realistic way, in a forward momentum way.
Love this. And I love this for so many reasons. I think so many of us are like, I'll tell you what generation I am, and I'm going to tell you what that means about me. Especially now, you open social media, and constantly I'm berated with, oh my God, I'm totally a Gen Xer. I'm the kid that was a latchkey. And I played on playgrounds that weren't safe, and I ate dirt, and, I'm still alive. And so I think every generation has that thing. I also want to say in my second career, I was 27 years old and I was hired at the management level, and everyone who reported to me was older. And in some cases, by 5 or 10, but predominantly, this was a job where it was a second job for people. It was like their retirement job or their twilight, whatever, we call it. And so many of them were in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that first day on the job, like I can tell everyone was like, oh my God, she's so young. What does she know? I like to think that it took me a little time to build their trust and their confidence, but that I was it. And without the support of someone like you, who I definitely think, would have helped so many of us in our early careers. Okay, so you are a millennial. Tell me, being a millennial, what does that mean?
Being of a millennial, I think of that song by Juvenile, Back That Ass Up. That is being a millennial. We're bringing my Gen X's secret desires to the forefront. And to be honest with you, I think Gen X, that entire generation, they remind me of the Virgo energy because they're stealth, steadfast. They're on a mission. They get to the goal. The millennials, we do the same thing. We just do it in a quiet way. We're colorful. Yes, we're bold. I like fuchsia. I like pink. But more importantly, we're purpose led. Same thing as the Gen X. Gen X are purpose led too. The results are louder for the Gen X because it's a stealth mission. I swear, it's like Virgo energy there. I'm still trying to figure out the other generations in terms of zodiac signs, but I got Gen X down to a T. That to me, Virgo energy. Virgo energy, they are an earth sign and they are very perfectionist. But perfection is always progress. Hint, perfect progression. It's always progress. It's never obtained. Millennials, we are, yes.
Can we stop and do some more Gen X stuff before we go on to millennial? Because I'm having a
Yes.
lot of feelings as a Gen X. So I have no Virgo anywhere. None of my planets, none of my. So you said that, and I'm like, there's nothing Virgo about me. I am like literally all water sign. I am deep in the ocean somewhere. Um, do you swear by, like, when you do research on the generations, it is like this generation started on this day and it ends on that day? Because I have a kid who's on the cusp, and I also have a sister-in-law who's on a cusp. And what I've noticed about them is that they've decided who they feel really represents them. Like my daughter falls closer to millennial, but she is determined to communicate that she's Gen Z. My sister-in-law, who arguably is a millennial, but definitively recognizes herself as a Gen X. And I would even agree with that, having known her since she was 7 years old. So talk to me about like those cusp people.
So that is a wonderful question. And I love that we brought that up. So talk about those cuspers. When you think about those cuspers, it's the same thing for zodiac signs. There's zodiac signs that are on the cusp. For example, there's a difference between a May Gemini, a June Gemini, and
Right.
a June Cancer. There's a difference. Those May Geminis, they will take off on your ass, but they'll think about it first. They're grounded. They're in the earth. They'll think about it first. The June Geminis, they're out. But when you're going into June Cancer now, they're very different. They're actually more emotional than the July Cancers. Really, those cuspers, they can help bridge us if they are shown how to do it, especially in the workplace.
Let me ask a question, if you don't mind, because I think some of what I'm hearing is that we've somehow been pigeonholed into either what generation we are or what sign we are. Because of that, there are all these assumptions made on who you are solely based on when you were born, as opposed to who raised you, where you lived, or what places you lived. And to me, it can be damaging. I am perfectly happy to tell everybody I'm a Pisces, I'm a this, I'm a that, because I'm an open book. So I'm gonna stop you then and say, so what would you say about a Pisces?
Ooh, Pisces. So I actually have a Pisces moon. So this is how I describe the water signs. The moon rules Cancer. That's the only object in the atmosphere aside from the sun that has one zodiac sign. The sun is the Leo. The moon is Cancer. Every other planet is housed by two zodiac signs. But Pisces, you guys are so deep. You are the ocean. You never know how deep the ocean goes. It's only been what, 10% of the ocean has been discovered? That's it. That's a Pisces. Nobody wants to go that deep into a Piscean water. Do you understand how deep a Pisces can go? And the Pisces are actually the closest to the heavens because they are also the ruler of Pluto. Pluto is the furthest from the sun. They are the closest to the stars. They have direct access to a divine light, to a divine being. They get downloads automatically without realizing they're getting downloads. And by the time they realize it, it's like a deja vu. No, it's not. You've already been there. And they're psychic people. So you can basically sense my bullshit, even when I'm trying
So
to hide it.
so yes to everything you've said, but although I think sometimes when people meet you on like a very surface level, um as I think especially for people like me who are like I tend to be like out there, like very talkative, very loud, very in your face, sometimes there's an assumption that it doesn't go so deep. Damn, do I go deep?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Damn, do I go deep? And Pisces is all over my chart. It's not just my star sign. Like it is all the way up and down. So talk to me then about cancers briefly, because not only are you and my husband cancers, but you have the same birthday, not the same date, because he's a solid 2 decades older than you. So tell me briefly, like, who's a cancer?
Cancers, they are the moon, right? So they are emotions. They are the mother sign. We are homebodies. We love our children. We love our families. We're very loyal. We are the crabs. It is very hard to get in that shell, but once you're in, you're in. There's no getting out. We will nurture you. We will take care of you. We will love you if that cancer is healthy. Now, if that cancer is not healthy, they are manipulative, extremely. They can be narcissists, very bad. There's dark sides and there's light sides to each zodiac sign. But cancers typically do take care of the home. They are very family oriented. I've heard they are crybabies. But they are just as lethal, if not worse. They are very dangerous people when provoked.
I'm laughing because my husband cries at everything. He cries at everything. And when we're together as a family, when we're watching something that potentially could be sad or very happy that would lead someone to tears, my daughters will whip their heads around. Is dad crying? Is dad crying? Is dad crying? And he cries. And he cries at everything. He is definitely a family man and he's a loyalist and he's not a crab that has a hard shell. He is a soft shell crab for sure. And that this is something I appreciate is you can talk about it and I see so many aspects of him in it. But as we were talking before about how sometimes, generationally and with signs, we can pigeonhole people that like not everybody is exactly the same way,
No.
but that there are attributes that are connected to that. Okay, so talk to me about working with people and working with companies, because I think a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, I read my horoscope and I get it when Mercury is in retrograde and yada yada yada, and I feel different when there's a full moon or whatever. How do you bring your skills to a company? How do you bridge the gap between the generations in the workplace?
Well, number one, I need to understand what is the issue. What's keeping you up at night? Is it the different generations or is it the lack of communication? Is it the lack of culture? Because if a company does not have a culture, you have to understand we come with personal cultures. We will come into your workplace with a personal culture. That personal culture is our upbringing, is what our beliefs are. And this is for people who don't even believe in astrology, and that's fine. I'm not here to convert you. That is not my job, nor do I want that headache. But I do understand the
Right.
different signs and zodiac houses because as there are 12 zodiac signs, there are 12 zodiac houses, and they all coincide with one another. For example, the first house is your first impression, which will also be your rising house. So, your first impressions is everything. That's that saying goes. Well, I don't look like a Cancer because I actually have a rising Leo. That's why my hair looks the way it looks. Hair is everything. This is the main. This is the main. So, and I am a hair person. I will spend a fortune on my hair. It's not even funny.
I have purple hairs. I get it.
Love this. So, when I have that consultation and I get to the root cause of what the issue is, a lot of the times it's miscommunication. So, as I have a communications workshop, which is 3 days, it can be anywhere from 20 to 25 people. You can have your frontline staff, your middle staff, or you can have your executive leaderships in the classroom with me, whether virtual or in person. And so, if it is communication, then we break down why. And if we're going to go with the different generations, understand this. When you said in the beginning that when you were hired in a position at 26 and all the people worked on you that were older, because they're older and I'm younger, if you are a real leader and if you've been trained properly, then you understand that they have already been leaders in their own right. This is actually a gold mine for you. This can actually help enhance your leadership abilities and skills because they're a leader in their own right. They've earned it. They've been there, done that. This is where we have to have the mutual respect. And I think a lot of times what happens is that us younger people, when we get into these positions of power and we have those underneath us are reporting to us that are older, we're forgetting that our position does not dictate our moral character. We still have to have some form of moral code, ethics, personal ethics, aside from just a company. I call it home training, maybe because I'm Southern. We have a thing called home training. So, you have to demonstrate your home training capabilities to these older people because it shows that you respect them. It doesn't matter about your position. You respect them, but your position is the compass. Your position is the compass. You can guide them. People will respect you if you can lead them properly. Older people will follow you, but you got to show them why they should follow you. And you have to take into account their experiences, their knowledge, and the years they put on this earth.
You know, you make me think of something because, and this came up yesterday. I was at a meeting, a networking group, women only, and the woman who gave the workshop yesterday is a menopause coach. And so most of the women in that group, I think there were like almost 20 of us, most of them are in perimenopause, maybe a couple that are nowhere near that. And then a few of us, I think three of us that are in full blown menopause. And we were talking about how it's so important to normalize the conversation about menopause and perimenopause. So I think the conversation is being normalized more and more. You know, if nothing else, there are fun TikToks, women who are, you know, sharing all the symptoms they're going through. And we go, me too, which also to me is like that a generational connection that one can have. But the conversation wasn't normalized because doctors aren't talking about it because they aren't really learning about it. Like your gynecologist will say you're in menopause or you're not in menopause, but won't talk about symptoms like metallic taste in your mouth or itchy ears. Like those somehow are associated with something else. And so I know like we get to a certain age in our lives and we're like, oh, my doctors are younger than me. I don't think that's such a terrible thing because they've been educated most recently, which means they've learned the newest things. The way I perceive it, more willing to learn so that, like, why would I want to go to someone who doesn't have all of the wealth of knowledge that someone young does, as opposed to the wealth of experience, which is also important. And I just feel so strongly about trusting those that are younger than us, as opposed to just writing them off because they're young. And you had me thinking about that.
You know, I think why can't we have both? So someone asked me, Stephanie, what sets you apart from everyone else? I mean, you're a strategic, multi-generational strategic advisor, workplace energy expert. What is this? What is it? What do you do that others don't do? What do you bring? And I told them I bring acceptance. I teach your people how to accept what is and operate within that current space and make decisions based on what is and not what they want it to be. Because so many of us, we create a scenario in our mind, doesn't matter what zodiac sign you are, doesn't matter what generation you are. We have that because we have the knowledge, we have the skills, we have the know how. So if this could happen, then this could happen. And so if we operate in the what if space, the hypothetical space, we're going to create a result in our minds.
I think you've I think you've painted a pretty good picture of what it looks like when you go in to help a workplace. I hear what you offer and I think it's amazing and I think it could help so many workplaces. But there are also like some very straight and narrow places who are like, I'm not bringing in this Looney Tunes who looks at star signs and generations, and that would be a shame if that's how, close-minded someone is. But talk to me about who works really well with your help.
Whoever wants it. I'm going to be very honest with you. I know that there are some straight and narrow companies out there. We're not doing this. We're not introducing a new religion to our workplace. Great, because I'm not here to convert you. And it's not a religion. That's fine. Let's talk about your process improvement. Let's talk about those operationals. Let's talk about those strategic operational procedures you supposedly have. I do have a master's degree in legal studies with an emphasis on corporate and healthcare compliance. Words are my thing. I've already gone inside of organizations and redone their policy. I am going to pick apart every terminology you have that makes up your organization. And I'm going to see if you can demonstrate that through action. And if you can't, then I can help you build a process that can. And it has nothing to do with zodiac signs. It has nothing to do with numerology. But I will tell you, there's always someone on an executive level that will pull me to the side and say, Stephanie, tell me more about what you think we're in terms of numerology. I have so many different executives that comes to me behind the scenes and say, Stephanie, talk about this. I had an executive who I had coffee with, and they said, Stephanie, speak about the zodiac signs and how it relates to business, please. We want to hear it. We want to know more about it.
So let me ask a question. Now that we're seeing more and more boomers retiring, and now Gen X is beginning to retire, how does that affect the workplace where now predominantly we're working with different age groups than, say, 10, 15 years ago?
Well, I had this conversation not too long ago. Boomers have taught Gen X how to do what to do, and the Gen X have learned from their mistakes. Gen X have learned from the boomers' mistakes, which is why they've been so instrumental in that stealth mission. Setting aside the emotion, because we got to get things done. There's a goal, there's a deadline, we got to get it done. I understand this hurts your feelings. I understand that you are emotionally tied to it. We get it. But right now, emotions cloud the judgment because AI can't replace EI. I asked a question and I'm pretty bold. I've been bold all my life. I've just accepted this fact. When was the last time you guys have been in a physical fight? I mean, hair pulling, sweating, spitting, your ties, shirts are torn.
1984, and I could tell you all about it too. Go ahead.
There you go. We're in 2025. So that means AI didn't even jump in and save you. How did AI deal with that? Did AI jump in and stop that?
I didn't have a computer.
I say that question to people. And when I said it on this call, I was on a call with executives on top of that. And I was just so over the fact that everybody had so much emotion that was based in fear tied around how to run their workplace. Now, here's the thing with the next generation, the Gen Zs, they're the new boomers, minus the emotional piece. So the boomers didn't have much of emotion because they were building our America. They were building our world. The Gen Zs now, they're building us now in technology, So they're actually the new boomers. I do this all the time whenever I have these conversations about the generational differences and the gaps. They're not gaps. We're taking what was learned or given to us previously and applying them in the new world. Our world is evolving. Technology is a thing. And really, the millennials are the only generation that are the shifters because we were there when the boomers were building. We were there when our Gen X were teaching us about results oriented and teaching us about that structure. There's a better way to get the results. There's a better way to do it. Let us show you. I love Gen X. My mother's a Gen X and she's been a payroll administrator her entire life. So numbers is her thing. Words are mine. And so bring the numbers, bring the words together. You have something amazing.
Stephanie, let me ask a question because you have me thinking about so many things. And one is like how the workforce has changed from boomer to Gen X, if for no other reason, as women here, and as most of my listeners are women, there were more women in the workplace when Gen X came around than boomer. And then the same with the following generations and how different the culture becomes then. And then the other thing I was thinking about was how much the pandemic affected the workplace. And I've actually been someone who has worked predominantly from home her whole life. I uh, in 1995, when I became a district manager, my at 25, my home became my office. When I moved to a new job in 96, 26 years old, I predominantly worked from home. I had a large staff. I had places to go to see them and do things. But I'm that person who has worked virtually for most of her life. So the pandemic changed everything for everybody. And I was already feeling comfortable in that role to a degree, of course. But I think what I fear for later generations is that for those who get to work remotely, and I think working remote is amazing, but how different your relationship is with people in a little square on your computer versus in the office next to you or the cubicle behind you. And so while there are boomers who are working from home and there are Gen Xers who are working from home and there are millennials who are working from home, Gen Z learned work remotely. So talk about that.
So the pandemic did change everything. Everyone was not exempt from the pandemic. And it was actually the pandemic, in my opinion, that I saw for the first time in the world where every person had the exact same pressure on them. Every person had the same pressure. It wasn't about race. It wasn't about class. It wasn't about status anymore because the pandemic came through and cleaned out everyone at every race, age, level, status. It did not matter. And for the first time, again, I'm from Mississippi. As a matter of fact, I am from Starkville, Mississippi. I am not from the coast. I'm not from the
What's that
capital.
near? I've been to What's that near? I've been to Nashville and I've been to Memphis. Where is that?
Oh, you're 2 hours south. Memphis is 2 hours north of Starkville, and I used to live in Memphis in Germantown neighborhood, so I get it. Love Bill Street.
Can I stop
Yes.
you for a second though? Because when I'm going to disagree, but I'm going to ask. It's not necessarily a disagreement. I kind of feel like class had a lot to do with what happened over the pandemic. Because if you were in a role where you didn't have a computer and you weren't considered essential, then the pandemic really did affect your ability to make money, have a job, or anything like that.
And you're not wrong. When I say impacted us, it didn't matter what you look like. The pandemic took somebody in your life. For the first time, we've all experienced the same amount of pressure. Maybe the experiences were different. During the pandemic, I lost two sisters, and they weren't to COVID, but I lost two sisters 8 months apart, one in a different state and one in Arizona. And the other in the other state, that one I had to travel to, and I did not want to go because I do not go to that part of Mississippi. But that's what I mean when I say the pandemic impacted all of us. Now, there were people who were impacted greater because they weren't essential workers. Prior to the pandemic, there was talk about workplace balance. There were talk about self-care in the workplace, but some people shoo off self-care as if it doesn't mean anything. It's a self-care bullshit. Well, I challenged them by saying, have you ever met a smoker who hadn't had a cigarette in a few hours? I don't want to talk to him. A person who's an avid smoker, they take that 15-minute break. They need that 15-minute break. Now, that may be their version of self-care. That may not be my version of self-care. May not be the next person's, but it is theirs. And that's the thing about self-care. It's defined differently per person. It's whatever brings you peace,
Right.
calm, clarity for the day. There was talk of that before, but it wasn't really taken serious. Not just by the people who run the businesses, but the people themselves that talk self-care. You want self-care, you
Sure.
want more out of your work environment, but you're not yourself doing more to obtain it. And change is the one thing that remains constant in our world. Change is happening, and when you're resistant to change, it happens to you by force, not by choice. If it's happening to you by force, you're going to be hurt in the process. That's just how change works.
Can we talk about this? Can we talk about the smokers again? I want to talk about the smokers because I love your take on this. You know, I've been a weight loss coach for over 20 years. And for all of those years, we've talked about how do you take care of yourself? You know, you don't eat at your desk and you don't give up your break time. A lot of people have a hard time with that. And I used to reference the smokers. The smokers have absolutely no problem taking their 10 or 15-minute break or whatever it is so they can get outside and have a smoke. Why are you sitting at your desk while they're smoking? This is the perfect time for you to take a walk or go wash your face or meditate or deep breathe or do something for you. And so I love your take on it. Yeah, the smokers are making sure that they're spending their time away from their desk. I think we all logically know maybe not self-care if it's going to give you lung cancer and make you lose your teeth and your skin go bad, you know, but yada 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 yada. But to know that they're using that in some way as a tool to have their free time, and the rest of us don't need to be smokers, but we need to take that 10 or 15 minutes and do something to mellow us out or calm us down or pick us up if where we've been is down in our work. So I love that little take on that self-care for what it's worth.
Absolutely. Because self-care looks different for everybody. Not everybody is going to meditate. I meditate twice a day, every day, a minimum of 10 minutes. I've also seen what happens when I don't meditate as much. Know thyself.
And for all the people out there that think I can't meditate, remember, meditate can be 10 minutes, it could be 2 minutes, it could be a minute, just as long as you shut down, close your eyes, focus on your breathing. Don't worry about not thinking about anything. Think away. Our brains are designed to think. So I want to shift gears because we've been chatting for a long time and you've had so many great things to say, but I have to bring it back. This is the podcast about clutter. And I think you navigated us through a whole lot of clutter, whether people believe it or not. I ask every guest the same question, whether it's physical or mental or the calendar or digital or paper. Clutter is a block. It is a thing that gets in your way. So, what is your clutter? What's your block?
Myself. And I say that because, yes, I say that because I know that I am supposed to be in certain spaces. My purpose in life is bigger than my children. And for a long time, I did not want to walk in that purpose. And for a long time, I've had to have things taken from me to get that, including the death of my sisters. My older sister was 32 when she passed, 2 weeks before her 33rd birthday. If she did not pass away, I would have never moved out of the state of Arizona. I'd have never moved. I stayed. And I was thinking to myself, I can get through this because I am going to stay in this job forever and I can make it. Well, I also need security, but I would not go outside of my comfort zone to get it. But that's where growth happens. And so I noticed that I myself am in my way because I'm afraid of the light, because I don't like a lot of attention. But let me clarify, I'm timid, not a pushover. Those are two different things. I would have never left the state of Arizona and moved and learned that there's a whole nother world out there that is worth
Mhm.
me exploring. I would have never known that I'm able to touch that many people just with speaking reality into the situation. Talking about those smokers, those people that go outside and take a smoke break, they need that 15 minutes. I get it. I don't want to deal with it.
I love this because I think often when I talk about clutter, people automatically assume that I'm talking about stuff. And yes, stuff is clutter, but the reality is that there are people out there who don't have physical clutter, but we all have some kind of mental clutter. And like that's the clutter I always want to address. Sure, physical clutter creates mental clutter, and mental clutter can create physical clutter, and then all of a sudden we're in this like really scary cycle. But once we recognize that most of the clutter is mental or emotional, and then we dig into what does that mean? What does it look like for me? Then we really realize that we are our greatest blocks. And we don't have to be, but it's recognizing that first so that you're right, get uncomfortable because it's when we're uncomfortable that the growth happens. So I love that you said it that way. So, what do you want a listener to take away from today?
From today, find out where your Mercury is. Find out what sign you have in Mercury, please, because that will determine your communication style. Learn how you communicate. What zodiac sign you have in the third house, or what zodiac sign you have as Mercury, because that will determine your communication style. 95% of problems are based on communication. The other 5% is an actual technical thing. That's what I would take that away. Anything else? And if you have a challenge with not knowing how to find it, contact me. Let's have a consultation. I'd love to.
I love that. I feel like I can't remember what my Mercury is in, and I'm going to have to do that like as soon as we're done recording because I need to know more. Stephanie, I want to thank you so much for being here today. You definitely lend a whole new perspective on all of the things that we have been discussing on my podcast since January. Relationships come up on a regular basis, and I think we talk a lot about our familial relationships, but the reality is that the people that we work with are the people we typically spend the most time with. So it's really important for us to understand our relationship and how generation can affect that. I'm a firm believer in the sun, moon, and the stars and all the things that come from them, and Mercury too. So,
Yeah.
Stephanie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free. I hope you found a spark of inspiration to help declutter not just your space, but your mind and life as well. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little lightness in their life. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Small steps lead to big changes, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. For more tips, resources, and ways to connect, check out my website, follow me on social media, and don't forget to check out the Design Your Healthy Life Strategy program to take your transformation even further. Until next time, keep letting go of what no longer serves you and making room for what truly lights you up.